Alrighty, welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, No Classics. This is episode number 2153 and Doubleshot number 2047. Now, for these two trades here, they're both basically fairly recent stuff. This one in particular, because the next thing comes after this one is a crossover. So this kind of is the end of his writer's run for this series. The other one is just another trade featuring it. Alright, first up we have is Avengers Forever Volume 2, The Pillars. This collects Avengers Forever, Volume 2, Issues 6 to 11, and the Avengers Forever Infinity comic book. Yes, they had Infinity comic book. Basically, it's driven by Jason Aaron. Oh, and fun fact, I believe this was actually the only title Jason Aaron was writing at that time, because I think as of right now, since perhaps of this book and the main Avengers book, I don't think he's writing anything else. I don't remember if he is. Basically, for the main book, The Pillars, for issues 6, 10 through 11, it's Jim Towney in the artwork, and we have Aaron Cooter on the artwork for 7 through 9. The Avenging, of course, now by Jason Aaron, artwork by Kev Walker. Now, basically, we have mostly these 5 issues are mostly standalone. Like, this first one looks like a version of the Black Panther that looks like the story itself is kind of a take on basically a combination of Superman and Spider-Man. Yes, for some reason they decided to do this. I don't know why. It also partially inspired by the Intergalactic Empire, and we have this. Apparently, he's not Black Panther. He calls himself Killmonger. Yeah, for some reason he's called this. Like, he fights this one guy, and he kind of wins and falls to a hole, but then he's picked up by the Robbery Ghost Warriors here with Tony Stark, who's Ant-Man, and a Deathlock. Yep. And then the very next issue is basically about ultra versions of Captain America. Like this guy, basically, who's Steve Rogers, doesn't know where he is. And we see various different versions. We have a dog version of him. And then we see people costumes later after some fighting. And we see... Well, first we see a version of Captain America who is... Get this. A combination of Wolverine and Nuke. Yes, for some reason he's like this. And then we have costume ones. Yes, they show up. And it's... a version of U.S. Agent, a version of Man-Wolf who's got supernatural powers, a mix version of Cap, the Captain America from Marvel Apes, yes. I believe this one here, I'm trying to remember where this one's from. I think it may be from an also take on the first arc of Avengers Volume 3. It's like, what if that continuity continued? That's most of what this version is. And then, of course, they kind of try to figure out who is the Weapon America. Issue 8 is, what if Thor became Iron Fist? Yes, seriously, that's what this issue is. He apparently can't lift Mjolnir, no matter how hard he tries. And he kind of basically fights Thunderer. And he apparently is like on his own because most of the population has been defeated. And he becomes a version of Iron Fist. And he gets to live. Issue 9 is a focus on Carol Danvers. Where you have also reality version. We have one where she apparently fights Hydra. You have another version where it looks like she's in the Savage Land. We have Pilot, of course, being Captain Marvel, obviously. And then her being a slave to animals. No, seriously. Yeah. Guys, most of what this issue is just basically ultra takes on Carol Danvers. And then, of course, basically, she goes up to a helicarrier where it turns out, then we see more versions of her. And, well, that's pretty much it for that one. And we have more stuff here. Then we pivot to a version of Iron Man. Yes, Iron Man. Yeah. Let me see the God Armor stuff. It's like, what if he never became Iron Man the way he should be? That's kind of what this version is. It's kind of like we do with more versions of Tony, because more ego stuff. And the issue 11 is known as The Last Ride. And no, this is not the final issue of the series. As a matter of fact, the series continued for another 3 issues, thanks to the cross I talked about. This mostly put us the end of this run. It's very much what this is. And all these issues is just basically built up for Avengers Assemble, what I'll talk about in a minute. The Infinity comic is, well, just more Avengers stuff, basically related to what happened in the book. But story stuff here is really good, and sadly, this is the end of the series. Though, yes, the finale will be told in Avengers Assemble. As for the main series, Avengers Forever, this is it. I give this trade here roughly a 9 out of 10. My final thoughts on the Avengers Forever series, even though I've technically not finished reviewing it because, well, Avengers Assemble. It's a good series. I do not know if it's going to continue or not. Excuse me. As far as I can tell, there is no... I've seen this upcoming solicits that this series is continuing. I think that, from what I can tell, issue 14 looks like it's the conclusion to the series. So, I do... when it comes to the series, I like the opening story arc. These issues are mostly all standalone issues. It's still also versions of popular Avenger characters, like the one for Cap, Carol Danvers. 11 is basically just a wrap of the series, while it continues from the 3 issues. Like, think of it as bonus issues, but you can think of it as 11 as the final issue of the whole series. Now, it could be the reason why the series ended because, well, Jason Aaron is leaving. And here's the strange thing about this trade here. It's only $25. Yes, I saw this at Barnes & Noble, and of course I got this from library because I didn't buy it because I figured more cheaper that way. And I proved to be correct. Yeah, I think that not buying this was a good smart move. I'm not really sure exactly why in the world that it costs as much for. Now, do I think the series could continue even after Jason Aaron? Unknown. Completely unknown. But this definitely was a really good series. Alright, next up, we're continuing a different series here. We have X-Men by Gerry Dugan, Volume 3. This collects issues of X-Men Volume 6, issues 13, 18, and the annual. Yes. Now, this book, of course, Gerry Dugan does all the writing here, with Stevie Fox doing the annual. Yeah, he doesn't do the annual, it's all Stevie Fox. The artwork is mostly done by C.F. Vela, who does issues 13 and 14, 18. The annual is done by Andrea DeVito. Joshua Cassera does 15 and 17. The cover art for pretty much the main issues is done by Martin Castillo and Jesus Aberf, and the annual cover is done by Stefano Castillo and Frederick B. Now, one thing I should point out about some of these issues, this trade here, is that this is something that's common with all the X-Men trades right now, because originally these things were collected in the Reign of X stuff. So pages from that trade are collected here as sort of like submention material. Like they mentioned about the events of Judgment, which I will discuss in the future. Don't worry about that. Now, the thing with this series is it's still mostly standalone issues. There's no actual story arc with this series. Not really. Not like what it was in previous runs. Before Hickman, there was always story arcs. Like, basically, when Hickman came on board, it was mostly, like, very rarely my final story arc, because mostly it's a lot of standalone issues. Resurrection Blues is the first issue, where this book is, well, all focused on Iceman. Yep, that's what this issue is, all focused on Iceman. Like, here's the thing about this book on Iceman and Forge. Oddly enough, there's no mention of him being gay. Yeah, the whole thing of sexuality is never out in the book. And mostly just deals with Celestials. Issue 14 is Ice Cold, which you can tell by the cover. Is this a Cyclops issue? Kind of, yes, it is. Now, as for the annual. Now, the annual I had heard when it came out recently, like last year, it did not receive a good amount of reception. No. One person I saw online described it as one of the worst annuals of the year. That's his opinion. Fine. I don't think it's that bad per se. The story is called Radiant. Yes. Or it's mostly put just They say this is Avenger, but I think it's supposed to be Jean Grey, but she's wearing a weird outfit. And she's here fighting the Hellions. Oh, it's not, I thought it was Jean Grey. Nope, it's Firestar. Yes, it is Firestar. Okay, there is a slight problem with this. Yeah, they say it's Angie, which means this is Firestar. The red hair, the outfit. It is so obvious that this could have been Jean Grey, but they probably switched to Firestar purely because of the fact of her history with Iceman. Now you might be curious though, did Iceman and her ever become a couple in the comics? Before the stupid outing of him as gay? No. These two were never a couple. As a matter of fact, here's the strange thing about these two. These two, up until she joined Amazing X-Men, these two stayed far away from each other. Yeah, apparently before Amazing X-Men, from what I can tell, their interactions were very, very, very rare. Like, when you look at her, does she look like Jean Grey? Yeah, the only way you could tell that it could be Firestar is because of her mask. And apparently the artist forgot to put her mask on. So, and then moving from her to Jean Grey. Who, by the way, in this book, they refer to, Scott refers to as her as his wife. Despite the fact at the start of the Krakatoa Initiative, they were divorced. And there was a suggested rumor I had heard that Scott, Jean, and Wolverine were in a three-way together. And that was a rumor from the stuff I read, from Hickman stuff. Excuse me. From what I can tell from reading Hickman stuff, that was completely untrue. I never saw any sides of this though. Yes, they had it where Wolverine was staying in the same house as Scott, but not to the point where Scott, Jean, and Wolverine were sharing the same bed together. Like, they say it was implied, but from what I read, no. And I've also heard described the X-Men being dead, and all of these people are plant people. Okay, with that, basically, that's a suggested opinion about few people might have about the X-Men. They describe them as a plant people because they grew out of pods near a tree. And my best estimation is that all these people are in clone bodies. And they're using nature with science. That's my perspective on it. I don't believe the X-Men plant people theory. I think it's a really stupid idea. Stupid theory. That is just how I feel about it. So, then of course they have it where Scott, Jean, and Firestar go to Kissimmee, Florida. Why are they here? To deal with the X-Corps drug stuff. That's mostly what this issue deals with. It just dealing with the rash of drugs. Like, apparently, it's apparently put on the black market. And then we have, for some strange reason, we have random stuff happening right after that. Like, oh, a hurricane happens. And then we have some fighting going on. Don't know where this is. Fight, looks like Bi-Beast. And then for some reason, they fight Whirlwind. I'm like, wait, that's not an X-Men villain. That's a Ant-Man villain. Yeah, then we have the Savage Land mutates in Paris. Oh, excuse me. I thought this was Paris. Based upon the Arc Jerome. Nope, this apparently is Brooklyn. And you're thinking, what? Seriously? Yeah, I thought because of the archway, this was Paris. Because they have something exactly like this. Now, anybody thinking, you've been to New York, have you seen this before? No, I have never seen this before. Apparently, you have the 7 in Brooklyn, even though it looks like frickin' Paris. Okay, and they have Miles Morales Spider-Man here. The artwork abruptly changes in the issue itself. And we have Mojo and Magic show up randomly. Oh, by the way, the Blob, if you're curious though, what is doing Krakatoa? He's a bartender. Also, he's got a handlebar mustache. Yep. And he's got his powers back. somehow it's not really explained. And it's like, yeah, so Firestar's kind of back with the X-Men. I would have thought, though, she was already X-Men, given the fact she joined the X-Men back in 2013. Yeah, I thought this was kind of dumb. Then we have a story called Collapse Theory. Wait, this one's all focused on Forge. And the story for this one is that they go back to the vault, and the story is they want to kill everybody in the vault. Yes, Forge is discussing with Cyclops about genocide. Yep, I'm sure. I didn't hear any reception of this issue per se. Of course, they about the annual. But what about this issue per se? Not really. No, I heard virtually nothing about this one. No reception. So, the plan is to have the X-Men massacre the residents of the vault. Yeah, and then we have an appearance about the Ghost Rider for reasons. Actually, it's more like 2 different Ghost Riders. Yeah, we have Johnny Blaze and Robbie Reyes. I'm like, okay. And then we have, for some strange reason, we have Johnny Storm Fantastic Four here. Like, what? Yeah, it feels like a lot of random stuff happening in this issue. And eventually, yeah, the residents of the vault are destroyed. Oh, and by the way, this is a carryover from the Wolverine comic. Yeah, for some reason, Ben Percy has turned the beloved Beast into a suit villain. Yeah, and then, of course, like, you have Forge go inside the vault, and we lead to what we leave behind. So, we have stuff with Mr. Sinister going on here. He goes into the vault. Beast goes nuts. They got magic. And no, this is not Dark Beast. This is 616 Beast. Now, I do not understand of the reasoning behind turning Beast into a bad guy. This makes no freaking sense, so I have no idea why, but yeah, that's basically what happened here. So, Forrest finds these strange pods and then finds an older, naked version of Laura McKinley. Yep. And that leads into issue 17. Yeah, it's like, wait, like the first 2 issues are standalone. Now we have basically an actual story arc. Yeah, it relates to the vault. And then, of course, they break it. And then we have, I think it's Snitch basically reunite with an older version of Laura. And, yeah, they become a couple. Yep, they become a couple. Also, Forge has turned old. Yes, because they spend time in the vault because the way it's implied, in the vault, time progresses very, very fast inside the vault. Like, you could be there for a few minutes and you come out and like 100 years pass by. No joke, that's how the vault works. So, how they resolve the whole 2 Laura thing? Well, they met with the Exterminators. Now, Laura, the present Laura, of course, she meets June Lee, which I thought was really cool. Now, they do come to agreement at the end of the issue, where Laura, basically, the present one, she's like, I'm claiming the name Wolverine. It is mine. And the older Laura is like, fair enough. I've been Wolverine long enough. He's like, one more thing. I'm happy you get to live a different life, but this isn't personal. But I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to see you. I wasn't asking to hang out. This, of course, was the older Laura telling the younger one this. And then we see the older Laura having sex with Snitch. And then we see Emma Frost talk to Jean Grey and calling her darling. Now, the thing is, these two have never liked each other at all. And apparently in the Krakatoa stuff, they like each other. Oh, and here's Beast acting like normal. Despite the fact he usually picked this villain. Like, what? By the way, this is still also Gary Dugan. And then the issue ends where apparently Forge... Actually, it's not Forge. It's Christopher Summers, Cornstar, is infected with the Brood. Yep. We're leading to a story with the Brood. I'm like, that's interesting. I like that. Now, some of the stuff in here I thought was pretty good. I thought the Firestar was really cool, except I am not a fan of her costume. Nope, I am not a fan. I think her costume, I do like the colors. Design, it does not look very good. I'm like, what was wrong with her regular costume she's worn since 80s? Yeah. And like, oh yeah, she's walking the X-Men. Despite the fact she's remembered the X-Men for a decade now. I don't know, it's weird. Okay, so probably give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Okay, so that's episode with you. Next up in a little while will be review for Dragon Statement. Hopefully case closed. Okay, next video. Bye.